Rose Denning took off her one good winter coat at the ring judging tent of the Cutbank County Fair on the second Saturday of October and put it around the shoulders of the elderly stranger sitting on the bench who had been shivering for a quarter of an hour, and she did it because her mother had raised her to. The stranger looked at her. He was in his 50s. He had a plain wool coat that was, plainly, too thin for the north wind coming off the ridge. He had white hair. He had a kind, grave face. He said, in a plain, honest voice, "Ma'am, please." "I could not." Rose Denning said, "Sir, it is my mother's coat. It has kept me warm 10 winters. It would like a 5th minute out of my closet, doing what it is for. Please." She sat down beside him on the bench. She was 33. She had been widowed of Ephraim Denning, a plain, honest carpenter of Cutbank, 4 years back. And she had come to the fair that Saturday because the fair was where a plain widow of Cutbank went on a Saturday in October, when she had no other social obligation, and had put up 3 jars of peach preserves for the preserves table. She said, "Sir, what is your name?" He said, "Alaric Maris, of Cutbank, very recently." She said, "Rose Denning, of Cutbank, not recently." He said, "Mrs. Denning, thank you for the coat." She said, "Please do not thank me. Please tell me why a plain, honest man of 50 is sitting shivering at the ring judging tent in a coat that will not hold October." Alaric Maris smiled a small, tired smile. He said, "Ma'am, I have been in Cutbank 2 weeks. I have come out from Baltimore. I have taken the position of chief physician at the new county hospital, which will open in April. I have been living at the boarding hotel while the small physician's cottage next to the hospital site is being finished. My winter trunks are on a Baltimore steamer, somewhere between the Chesapeake and the Missouri. The trunks contain my proper winter coats. My proper winter coats have not yet arrived. I have been walking the county in the plain, honest wool coat I brought on the train, because I did not know Cutbank had a north wind of this specific temperament. I have been laughed at by 3 merchants, and 1 very small child. I am, in short, ma'am, embarrassed and a little cold. I am obliged for your coat. I will return it after the judging." Rose Denning laughed once. She said, "Doctor, please keep the coat until your trunks arrive. I have a second coat in my closet at home. I will fetch it after the judging. Please do not fetch me back my mother's coat. Please, in fact, please my mother's ghost by wearing it around Cutbank until your Baltimore steamer arrives." Alaric Maris said, "Ma'am, that is a plain, honest offer. I accept." He wore Rose Denning's mother's coat around Cutbank for 4 weeks. Wore it at the Mercantile. He wore it at the courthouse where he was signing final papers on the physician's cottage. He wore it at the small Cutbank Presbyterian Church on Sundays. He wore it to the boarding hotel dining room each evening. Everyone in Cutbank came to know that the new chief physician was walking around town in the widow Denning's mother's coat, and everyone in Cutbank thought it was a plain, honest, funny thing. Alaric Maris, in his careful Baltimore way, wore it with plain, honest dignity, and did not once flinch. He knocked at Rose Denning's cottage on the 3rd Saturday of November, with the coat folded carefully over his arm. He said, "Mrs. Denning, my trunks arrived Wednesday. I am returning your coat." Rose said, "Doctor, come in. I have coffee." He came in. They sat at her plank table. He said, "Mrs. Denning." She said, "Rose, please." He said, "Rose, I would like to ask you a plain thing. I have been walking around Cutbank in your mother's coat 4 weeks. I have been thinking about the plain, honest woman who took her coat off at the ring judging tent for a stranger. I have been thinking about her every day. I have been thinking about her the last week without the coat as an excuse, because the coat had gone home. I would like to ask you plainly whether you would consider walking with me on Sundays after church for a proper acquaintance, with a view to a proper courtship. If you would rather not, please say so, and I will not press you. I am 51. I am a widower of 3 years. My 2 grown daughters are married in Baltimore. I have taken this Cutbank position because a widower of Baltimore is a lonely thing, and I wanted a small, honest county to walk in the rest of my life." Rose Denning set her coffee cup down. She said, "Doctor." He said, "Alaric." She said, "Alaric, I would very much like to walk with you on Sundays." He said, "Then we will begin this Sunday." They walked on Sundays after church, from the first Sunday of December on. They walked the plain, honest Cutbank streets. He told her about Baltimore, about his late wife Eleanor, about his 2 daughters, Prudence and Grace, both of whom had insisted their father come west if that was what he needed. Rose told him about Ephraim, plain honest carpenter, dead of a fall from a scaffolding on a courthouse renovation 4 years back. She told him about her mother, whose coat he had worn 4 weeks around Cutbank. He said, at the end of January, at her plank table over coffee, "Rose." She said, "Alaric." He said, "I would like to marry you." She said, "Yes." They married at the small Cutbank Presbyterian Church on the 2nd Saturday of April, 3 days before the new county hospital opened its front doors. Prudence and Grace, Alaric's grown daughters, rode out from Baltimore. Rose's older sister Ellen came down from Wyoming. Ellen gave the bride away. The Cutbank sheriff, who had known Rose since she was 6, stood witness for Rose. Prudence stood witness for her father. Rose wore a plain, honest gray dress she had sewn herself and a small sprig of prairie yarrow at her collar. She had, at Alaric's private and secret request, borrowed her mother's coat over her shoulders for the walk from the church door to the buckboard. Cutbank, which had watched the physician wear the coat all winter, cheered when the bride came out wearing it. They moved into the physician's cottage next to the new hospital. Rose kept the household and took a small, quiet position as head housekeeper at the hospital on Alaric's recommendation. She was, by June, running the hospital's laundry and its linen closet and its small, honest system of towel counts. Doc Maris ran the hospital's medicine. The hospital, from April to April, admitted 140 patients and lost only 3. It was, by the county board's plain assessment, a plain, honest success. 2 years on a warm September evening at the physician's cottage, Rose Maris sat on the porch step with Alaric beside her, and a small son, called Ephraim after her first husband, 10 months old, asleep against her chest. Alaric had said, at supper on the day Rose had told him she was expecting, that if the baby were a boy, she should name him for Ephraim, because Ephraim had been a good, honest carpenter, and had loved her, and had been buried in the Cutbank cemetery, and it would be a plain, honest kindness, done to the man who had gone before. Rose had wept once at the plank table. She had said yes. Alaric Maris said Rose. Rose said, "Alaric." He said, "The coat." She said, "Yes." He said, "It is at the boarding hotel. Mrs. Wingo has offered to lend it to Dr. Fell of Cheyenne for the winter. Dr. Fell has arrived without a proper winter coat. Mrs. Wingo asked if we would mind." Rose said, "Alaric, my mother's coat has kept a Baltimore chief physician warm 4 winter weeks in Cutbank, and has now, in its retirement, been offered to a Cheyenne doctor of similar plight. Please tell Mrs. Wingo that my mother would have laughed and would have said yes. Please tell her yes." Alaric said, "I will." The pasture went to gold. Ephraim slept against his mother's chest. Somewhere down the street, the hospital's small lantern was being lit for the evening rounds. And Rose Denning Maris, who had taken off her one good winter coat at the ring judging tent of the Cutbank County Fair on the 2nd Saturday of October, and had put it around the shoulders of the shivering, plain, honest stranger sitting on the bench, put her cheek against her husband's shoulder, and understood that the good, slow country had, in its good, slow way, arranged a Baltimore steamer's delay and a north wind off the Cutbank Ridge, and a plain wool coat that was not thick enough for October, and had, on the strength of one plain, honest coat, given her back the whole rest of a household under the plain, honest lantern of a Cutbank hospital. Her mother's coat had, in its own small, quiet way, helped to keep open. And so it had.